Hello, everybody. Welcome to another interactive session with Inside Sports. And today we are glad to have UFC 291 expert panelist Shomesh Kamra with us discussing about the upcoming fight. So, firstly, it's a big week for all the fight fans, and we're glad that Poirier versus Gaethje 2 is actually happening. So, you know,
Absolutely.
Dustin Poirier recently said that he envisions this fight going like they both would be going to the hospital if this fight goes for all 25 minutes. Like, as a fight expert, do you see that fight going to the distance, or do you feel like somebody's going to get knocked out?
That's a very interesting question because what has happened in the first encounter in 2018 was so exciting, where it was back and forth almost throughout. And post that, typically there was a very good right hand that I think, sorry, if it's a right hand or a left hand, I'm not too sure. But Dustin Poirier landed flush on Justin Gaethje, and that pretty much changed the trajectory of the entire fight. But till then, it was back and forth, and it was going really well. So to be honest, I don't see this fight going 25 minutes. If these two ever have to go the decision, it has to be in a 3-round fight, because if it goes, the distance is just going to be bad for both of them, because they are just stand and bang fighters. Both of them, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, have this attitude of not giving up. They just want to stand and bang out there. And it, according to me, is not going to go 25 minutes. One of them is going to go down.
So it's 5 years since they have fought for the first time. In between, they have been into part of some of the biggest fights. They have both fought for the lightweight belts, but unfortunately, they both lost. So, in which aspect do you think they both have, evolved, and how different is it's going to be, like from the first fight?
So that's a very good question, because I think Dustin Poirier, in my uh, envisioning of this entire situation, I think Dustin Poirier has evolved a little more than Justin Gaethje. I'm not saying Gaethje is a bad fighter, but I think Dustin Poirier has become much calmer. He's become technical. His boxing has become way more crisp. He doesn't get affected at the press conferences, and at the same time, what has changed in his game plan, according to me, is his strength and conditioning. He's just become so much more stronger. His neck has become thicker. He's not getting knocked out. He's keeping his weight absolutely correct. He knows he just has to cut those, maybe 5 or 6 pounds towards the end. So he's not killing himself going into the fight. So I think Dustin Poirier has just taken a slower, methodical approach. Justin Gaethje, we've seen him in the past 10 years. He has this stand and bang kind of, fighting style. And typically what happens in that case, yes, his chin is very good. He's a tough guy. But I think it's going to be more detrimental for Justin Gaethje going into this fight.
Like, obviously, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are two of the most electrifying lightweights at this point, and they're absolutely at the top of their game. But we have seen them get really unlucky with their luck at that lightweight title, and they failed to hold the lightweight gold, no matter how great they are. So, do you feel like either of these men is going to become the lightweight champion in the future, or do you feel like they're always going to be on the top and just be this exciting fighter and not the champion?
According to me, that lightweight belt may not come to either of them anytime soon. We've got Islam Makhachev, that is right at the top of the chain there, and we've got Charles Oliveira that is always going to hang around there. So I think it's going to be very difficult for either of them. But if you ask me, I think Dustin Poirier has a higher chance of grabbing that belt if Islam Makhachev doesn't want to continue for whatever reason, in this particular division. Then I think the Charles Oliveira Dustin Poirier fight would be very, very interesting. But let's see how this goes. So according to me, what happens is that there are some fighters that are so good, but they are just at the door. They don't make it past the door. And we feel very bad, because both these guys, be it Dustin Poirier, be it Justin Gaethje, they are so good, but just not there. And sometimes you just feel bad for them, because they're awesome fighters, they're good men, but they don't manage to crack that undisputed lightweight championship belt. Both have held the interim belt at some point of time, but they've not managed to go and beat the champion. It's almost at that point like if I have to draw a comparison, something like Robert Whittaker, who was the middleweight champion. But if you ask me today, he's excellent. He's very good, but he just cannot grab that belt.
So talking about the co-main event, you've got another exciting light heavyweight fight between Alex Pereira and like Jan Blachowicz.
Ooh.
Now, how do you predict the fight? Because it's going to be Pereira's light heavyweight debut, while Blachowicz has already been a champion in that division. So, what's your official prediction for that fight?
Wow, that's a very, very good question because Jan Blachowicz, I think, has not fought in a while. He is used to championship fights, which means he's used to the 5-round fights. He knows as to how to conserve his energy. His last fight was versus Magomed Ankalaev, which was a draw. And it was so close because people didn't know which side it's going to go. But he beat Alexander Rakic quite convincingly. And these are guys who weigh in at 205, but when they come in for the fight, they're probably 220, 225 pounds. And Alex Pereira is no newcomer to weight cutting, because I think on any other given day, he's probably walking around at about 230, 235 pounds. And then he's to cut to 185 pounds. So I think this is going to be a good fight. The experience obviously goes down to Jan Blachowicz. But when it comes to the knockout power, I think Alex Pereira has the upper edge out here. If you ask me, I think the former champ at light heavyweight is way, way more smart. He knows he cannot play with Alex Pereira. He knows he'll have to take him down and grind him down. It's a 3-round fight. It's not going to be that difficult for Jan Blachowicz, unless and until he gets caught by one of those swinging punches that comes. And that's the beauty of the sport. So if you ask me, I think Jan Blachowicz gets it done because he'll be smarter, he'll be more technical, and he will try and get Alex Pereira down. But there are 2 points here. One is both the fighters have a vicious left hook. So whoever lands first wins. And the second is Alex Pereira is very difficult to hold down. So we've seen in the past, many fighters have tried to take him down, but it's very difficult to hold him down because he's a huge guy. And at the same time, what happens with the Brazilians is once they start sweating, they become a little slippery very naturally. So, he quickly just shrimps and he takes himself out and he's back on the feet. So it's going to be a very, very interesting contest. I think Jan Blachowicz has more tools to win this fight.
Since you mentioned that Alex Pereira is a massive guy, now when he was fighting at the middleweight division, a lot of people called him that he is a very big middleweight, which obviously is right. Now, a lot of people also call him to be a big light heavyweight, and people want to see him at heavyweight. So, what do you think is the actual weight division where Alex Pereira should fight, and he would be fighting guys of his size? Like, is light heavyweight division the perfect fit for him, or do you think he should move up to the heavyweight division?
So see, what people do not realize is that when somebody moves up a weight division, it's not just that you eat food and you go on the weighing scale and you weigh heavier and and the job is done there. You have to strategically move up, keeping your agility, keeping your mobility, keeping your strength, keeping your speed in mind. So I think the guy who did it in the best possible manner is John Jones, who took that time off and who gained the weight. And, man, we saw how he dismantled Cyril Gane so easily. Alex Pereira, on the other hand, I think was draining himself out way too much to make the middleweight mark. And quite interestingly, there was a photo that was released where Tyson Fury and Alex Pereira was standing with each other. Alex Pereira is supposed to be 6'4" and say about 240 pounds. And Tyson Fury is supposed to be 6'9" and way, way heavier. But somehow when they were standing, not only height-wise, but even size-wise, they were almost looking the same. Sometimes I just begin to feel that if Alex Pereira is probably standing with a Yokozuna, he would look the same size. He just kind of goes with who he is, and he just becomes that size. So he's just he's a very mysterious character. I like that about him. But if you ask me, I think light heavyweight is the place where he should be. because he is huge for the division. It'll be very difficult to take him down. He's got immense power, but I still feel he needs to work a little bit more on his ground game.
Now we just have to talk about it. Like Tony Ferguson is going to fight in this card too against Bobby Green, and Tony Ferguson, like we all know, like he has been one of the greatest elites, but he's right now on a losing spree. Now,
Absolutely.
even if he wins this fight against Bobby Green, do you feel
Yeah.
like we should like would you want to see Tony Ferguson go ahead, or would you want to see him just retire after this fight?
I actually see, Tony Ferguson, if you ask me, he's quite he's an interesting character because the amount of wars that he's been in the UFC is crazy. He actually looks like he's possibly 50 years old, but he's only 39 years old. He's on a 5-fight losing streak, which means his last victory was, I think, versus Donald Cerrone in 2019.
Yeah, when
You know,
Khabib was active.
yeah, he faced Justin Gaethje, then Charles Oliveira, then Dariush Chandler, and his last fight was versus Nate Diaz. So he's been on a losing streak ever since. To be honest, after the Benil Dariush fight, which was in 2021, I was of the thought process that he should hang his gloves, and that was pretty much what I wanted to see of Tony Ferguson. And then came the Michael Chandler, that vicious front kick knockout that happened. That was a bad one, and followed by the Nate Diaz loss, which was, I think, last year in 2022. But it is so sad because here's a guy who had 10, 11 consecutive wins, and now he's on a 5-fight losing streak. I think his time is up. I think whatever the result of this fight is, Bobby Green, has a good money fight here, because in case he beats Tony Ferguson, I think it's going to be one of the feathers in his cap. But if you ask me, I think Tony Ferguson should hang his gloves after this. It's a couple of fights late. I would have loved it if after Benil Dariush, which was in 2021, he would have just hung his gloves and finished it off there, because that was a unanimous decision. But it is what it is. Because when I really started feeling bad for Tony Ferguson was in the Justin Gaethje fight.
That
It
was sad.
was at the apex. We could hear each and every shot, and it was literally, I was kind of believing that Justin Gaethje is kind of hitting this huge bag of meat, and it's making that pachak 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 sound, because he was so busted up. And I was like, come on, this just needs to be stopped right now. And I don't know if people remember, it was stopped in the 5th round, almost towards the end. So it was 24 or 23 minutes of badgering that went on to uh, this glorious champion that we had.
Now, my last question would be like Conor McGregor has obviously wanted to fight Justin Gaethje like in the past, and he has also given a green signal to the fourth clash against Dustin Poirier, which obviously doesn't seem to be happening right now because Conor is bulked up. Like, which of these two opponents do you want to see Conor fight next? Like, if it happens anyhow.
Wow. So that's a beautiful question. So if you ask me, the fight that I would really like to see is Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor, because that is one fight where I feel it could be the comeback for Conor McGregor, um, and or it would just be he loses again and goes out into the woods. Uh, Another fight what I would like to see, if you ask me, is Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor, in case that can come to play. But if you ask me, I think Dustin Poirier has crossed that bridge. I think he's way too good now. I don't think the monies are also going to be good for him, because if you see, Dustin Poirier has been getting the fight of the night, performance of the night, almost every single fight in his last few fights. So it's not that he's short on money. He's already beaten Conor convincingly in their last outing. They are 1-1 in the UFC, but I think skill-wise, Dustin Poirier has gone way ahead of Conor.
So thank you so much for joining with us, Somesh, and it was nice talking to you and knowing so much about insights about the UFC 291. We will be heading towards UFC 291 this week, and we are expecting you to see on the host seat. And UFC 291 will be available on Sony 10.2, Sony 10.3, and Sony 10.4. Indian fans can catch the action live on 7:30 a.m. main card IST. And so glad to have you here. Hope we will connect soon again.
Thank you so much, Raj. Ultimate Guide to UFC goes live at 6:30 a.m. on the 30th of July. So guys, tune in. Sony 10.2, Sony 10.3, Sony 10.4.
Thank you so much for joining with us.